Guten Tag. I am Ferdinand Tönnies, known as the father of German sociology, a founding figure of classical sociological theory. My work helped define sociology as both a scientific discipline and a moral reflection on modern life. Welcome to Socio-Exploration. In this video, I'll guide you through the journey of my life and highlight the key contributions I made to sociology, particularly my famous distinction between Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, and my role in establishing sociology as a scientific field in Germany. I was born on July 26, 1855, in the small village of Oldenswert in northern Germany. I came from a respected and affluent farming family, which gave me the opportunity to pursue a serious education. My early life in a rural community later inspired my deep interest in the contrast between traditional communal life and modern social organization. I studied at the universities of Jena, Bonn, Leipzig, Berlin, and finally Tübingen, where I earned my doctorate in classical philology in 1877. However, my intellectual focus quickly turned toward the changing social realities of industrial Europe, how modernization was reshaping human relationships, authority, and moral life. Though I began teaching at the University of Kiel in the 1880s, I spent many years as a Privatdozent, an unsalaried lecturer, before being appointed full professor in 1913. Despite limited institutional support, I remained deeply committed to research, teaching, and the growth of sociology as a rigorous academic field. In 1909, I co-founded the German Sociological Association, Deutsche Gesellschaft für Soziologie, with Max Weber and George Simmel, helping to establish sociology as a recognized discipline in Germany. In my personal life, I married August Pauline Rabe, with whom I shared a long and supportive partnership. While I was deeply absorbed in academic life, our marriage provided quiet stability through years of intense intellectual work and shifting political climates. We had 7 children, and though I was often immersed in teaching and writing, my family remained a constant part of my world. My most influential work, Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, Community and Society, was published in 1887. In this book, I introduced 2 fundamental forms of social organization. Gemeinschaft, or community, is rooted in personal relationships, shared values, and emotional bonds, such as those found in families or small villages. Gesellschaft, or society, is based on impersonal, rational, and contractual ties, typical of life in modern cities and bureaucracies. I observed that as modern life advanced, Gemeinschaft was gradually being replaced by Gesellschaft. While this brought structure and efficiency, it also created a sense of social distance, impersonality, and moral fragmentation. This central idea became a foundational concept in sociology, influencing thinkers like Weber, Durkheim, and beyond. Alongside this major contribution, I wrote on topics such as custom, morality, law, public opinion, punishment, and the role of human will in shaping social life. Though I'll explore these works in more detail later, what united them all was my belief that sociology must remain both scientific and human, grounded in moral understanding as well as empirical insight. I was also politically engaged. During World War I, I became increasingly critical of nationalism, militarism, and authoritarianism. After the war, I aligned myself with social democracy, emphasizing the need for ethics, education, and civic responsibility in modern society. My values placed me at odds with the rising Nazi regime, and in 1933, I was stripped of my honorary titles for opposing authoritarianism and defending democratic ideals. I retired from teaching in 1930, but continued writing well into my later years. I passed away on April 9, 1936, in Kiel, at the age of 80. I had witnessed an era of dramatic change, yet I never abandoned my belief in the importance of understanding how society holds together and how easily it can come apart. Before I take you into the deeper layers of my thought, I wish to share the intention behind it. All my life, I was concerned with the ways people live together, how relationships are formed, how they change, and what holds society together when traditions begin to fade. I saw that the modern world was not only transforming economies and institutions, but also the very fabric of human connection. My work was an effort to understand these changes, not to idealize the past or condemn the present, but to explain what we gain and what we risk losing in the process. Let us now explore the ideas that grew from this search for understanding. First, Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft, two types of social life. In my most influential work, Gemeinschaft und Gesellschaft, 1887, I explained that there are two basic types of social relationships. The first is Gemeinschaft, or community. This refers to traditional, close-knit relationships, such as those found in families, villages, or among close friends. People in Gemeinschaft know each other personally and care deeply for one another. Their lives are connected by shared traditions, values, and emotional ties. The second type is Gesellschaft, or society. This is the social world of modern cities, businesses, and governments. In Gesellschaft, relationships are more formal and impersonal. People interact mainly for specific purposes, such as trade, employment, or political agreements. The shift from Gemeinschaft to Gesellschaft reflects how societies change as they grow and become more industrial and urban. While Gesellschaft brings organization and progress, it can also lead to feelings of isolation and loss of connection. Second theory is natural will and rational will, what drives human action. To understand how people behave in society, I introduced the idea of two kinds of human motivation, natural will and rational will. Natural will comes from the heart. It is emotional, instinctive, and often unconscious. It drives people to form close, loving, and loyal relationships. This kind of will supports Gemeinschaft, where actions are based on trust and shared values. Rational will, on the other hand, comes from the mind. It is deliberate and goal-oriented. People act according to plans, calculations, or expected results. This kind of will supports Gesellschaft, where relationships are based on logic, contracts, and personal benefit. Both types of will are present in society, but one tends to dominate depending on the structure of the social group. Third, public opinion, a new form of social control in traditional communities. People are guided by customs and shared beliefs. But in modern society, where personal relationships are weaker, public opinion plays a bigger role in shaping behavior. Newspapers, education, and mass media influence how people think and act. I studied how this shift in social control affects morality, law, and politics. I believed that in a democratic society, public opinion must be free and honest. It should not be controlled by propaganda or emotion, but guided by reason and discussion. A thoughtful public creates a stable and ethical society, even in a modern world of rapid change. Fourth is from custom to law, the evolution of social norms. Another area I explored was how social rules develop. In small communities, people follow customs, shared habits passed down over time. These customs become moral rules when people start seeing them as right or wrong. Eventually, some of these moral rules become formal laws, enforced by governments or legal institutions. I argued that good laws are not made by force alone. They must grow out of the shared values and customs of the people. If laws are made without considering culture and tradition, they may be rejected or ignored by society. A successful legal system must reflect the moral understanding of the community it serves. Fifth is sociology as a scientific and ethical discipline. For me, sociology was more than a study of facts and figures. It was a way to understand how people live together and what holds society together. I believed sociology should be both scientific, based on careful observation, and ethical, concerned with human values and relationships. In 1909, I helped establish the German Sociological Association alongside Max Weber and George Simmel. We wanted sociology to be recognized as a serious field of knowledge, one that could help societies manage change while protecting moral and cultural foundations. Over the course of my academic life, I produced a body of work that sought to understand the changing nature of society, the foundation of social norms, and the forces that bind or break human relationships. Let me briefly introduce a few of my most significant publications and the ideas behind them. 1. Gemeinschaft und Gesellschaft, Community and Society, 1887. This was my most influential and best-known work. In it, I introduced the concepts of Gemeinschaft, community, and Gesellschaft, society, two ideal types of social organization that reflect how people relate to one another. Gemeinschaft represents the organic, emotional, and traditional forms of human bonding, where people are united by shared values, customs, and affection. Gesellschaft, by contrast, describes the modern, rational, and impersonal world, one shaped by contracts, institutions, and individual interests. This book was my attempt to explain how modernization affects human relationships and social cohesion. 2. Sitte, the Custom, 1904. In this work, I explored the role of custom in social life. I showed how everyday practices, such as rituals, greetings, and social habits, shape our understanding of morality and eventually become the foundation for formal laws. I argued that customs evolve over time into moral norms and later, legal codes. This gradual transformation is essential to maintaining social stability and harmony. Without deeply rooted customs, laws become mechanical and disconnected from the people they govern. 3. Kritik der öffentlichen Meinung, Critique of Public Opinion, 1922. As modern society became increasingly driven by media and mass communication, I turned my attention to public opinion. In this work, I examined how the voice of the public, formed through newspapers, speeches, and political discourse, shapes behavior, policy, and belief. I was both fascinated and cautious. Public opinion could promote freedom and ethical reflection, but it could also be manipulated or become shallow. I emphasized the need for reasoned debate and moral guidance in democratic societies. True public opinion must come from honest, collective thinking, not from propaganda or popularity. 4. Einführung in die Sociology, Introduction to Sociology, 1925. This book presented my vision for sociology as a discipline. I wanted to show how sociology could be both a scientific method of inquiry and a tool for understanding human values and social bonds. I discussed core concepts like social will, norms, customs, and the importance of community in an age of rapid change. It was meant as a foundational text for students and scholars interested in building a meaningful, morally grounded sociology. For me, sociology was not just about numbers or trends. It was about people, their relationships, and their shared moral life. 5. On Education, Science, and Democracy, 1931. This late work brought together my reflections on ethics, politics, and the future of society. I discussed how education should not only train minds, but shape character, how science must remain honest and independent, and how democracy must be rooted in community, not just institutions. I had lived through war, dictatorship, and the collapse of values. This book was my way of urging society to protect reason, morality, and the human bond. A free society needs not just laws, but understanding, responsibility, and a shared moral compass. My writings were never meant to serve the powerful or please the crowd. I wrote to understand and to warn. As the world grows more rational, technological, and institutional, we must not forget what makes us human: community, connection, tradition, and ethical responsibility. If we lose those things, society may function, but it will no longer feel like home. Do like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for further notifications. Dank. und einen schönen Tag noch.